Hello and welcome to Sunday Morning with me, Zara Janjua. I'm with you until 10, and there's lots coming up between now and then. We'll be considering the possibilities for peace after a devastating and tumultuous week in the Middle East. How in tune are you with the rhythm of the seasons? And are we missing a trick for our own well-being by ignoring the opportunities presented by different seasons? Big Brother is back on our screens, so we'll be looking at the impact of reality television and asking if the ethical boundaries have changed as the genre's popularity has grown. And in a few minutes, we'll be hearing about a new degree course in the subject of reparatory justice. But how can we determine the impact on lives today of historical incidents of justice? We'll get into that after our first track of the day, and all our music today is celebrating Black History Month.
Wake up, wake up. Ooh, girl, you know it's been a long time since we linked up and we got wild. Next day, everybody with the same line. Girl, you had the whole place going up like ooh, such a mood. I've never been so lost in the vibe. You know it's been a good night when I say that I looked up. It was 5 a.m. I see the sun rising. Last night was good for my soul. Where did the time go? I feel alive again. We fresh and ready to win.
Amongst the many events that are marking Black History Month throughout October is a walking tour in Glasgow exploring the history of the city's connections with tobacco, slavery, and the abolition movement. There's been much discussion in recent years about Scotland's involvement with the transatlantic slave trade and how it benefited from its proceeds. A fascinating backdrop to a new master's degree course in reparatory justice being offered by the University of Glasgow in partnership with the University of the West Indies. And it's a world first. Lecturer in global history, Dr. Christine White, is here to tell us more. A warm welcome to you, Christine.
Hello, good morning.
It's lovely to have you with us this morning. Now, first of all, can you tell us, how did you arrive at the decision to create this course? What's the background to it?
I mean, there's a long historical background to claims for reparations and campaigns for reparatory justice. But the specific context in Glasgow was the university's own investigation into its connections to and profits from Caribbean slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. That report was researched and written in 2017 to 2018 by Dr. Stephen Mullen and Professor Simon Newman. And one of the recommendations in that report was to explore new partnerships and a new program of reparatory justice from within the university. As a result of that, the university signed a partnership agreement with the University of the West Indies, and it was from that collaboration that this idea for a master's program in reparatory justice emerged.
And we often hear about reparative justice and restorative justice. What is the difference between them?
So restorative justice is a technique or a set of tools that are often used in the criminal justice system that can be more broadly applied, that is really about getting perpetrators of crimes to come to terms with what they've done, to acknowledge the harm that they've caused, to bring perpetrators and victims together to find a fruitful way forward. And so reparatory justice, of course, there's some overlap of elements of these concepts or ideas, but reparatory justice is focused on addressing historical injustices and on a broader scale. So there may not be the victims and the perpetrators still living, but we as a society are living with the consequences of those injustices. And some people living with the negative consequences and some with the positive, or some with the benefits, let's say. And so it's about addressing those legacies of injustice.
So the university did its own investigation and discovered links to the slave industry, and that's very much where this was born. But why have you chosen to focus on the Atlantic slave trade in this course?
I mean, a great deal of recent scholarship, but really going back to the 1930s, has shown that the transatlantic slave trade really remade the world in which we live. It was foundational to so many economic, social and cultural systems. It was a massive movement, forced movement of people from Africa to not only to the Americas and the Caribbean, but also to Indian Ocean islands as well. Mm-hmm. And so it's really a foundational element of our society. And from it, we can trace, historically, we can trace the toxic legacies of racism, specifically anti-Black racism, that we live with today.
It feels like there's been a real movement in recent years towards institutions addressing these historical links. For example, many financial institutions are doing the same. And in doing that, they're looking at how do you measure, how do you impact on society today and address some of those issues. But for you, it was really important to have this connection with the University of the West Indies. Can you tell us more about how that component's going to work?
Yes, and so the partnership between the University of the West Indies and the University of the Glasgow, of course, is much broader than this master's program. There's a joint research centre jointly run by the two institutions. And in this joint teaching program on reparatory justice, that brings together two different research centres. The Centre for the Study of Reparations at the University of the West Indies and the Beneba Centre for Slavery Studies at the University of Glasgow. And there's a much longer and deeper programme of engagement planned. And what that gives to us here at the University of Glasgow and in Scotland is closer access and engagement with the experts on reparatory justice working at the University of the West Indies. And so creating this relationship, I think, was integral to any kind of response to the report, because you need to engage with outside experts, with critical friends, with people who can provide the expertise and guidance that doesn't exist in-house, as it were.
Mm-hmm. And the CARICORM Reparations Commission, the CRC, was established in 2013 by Caribbean heads of government. And they've developed a 10-point reparation plan. What are the key things that that is asking for, and how much traction has it gained already?
I think it's really clear in the past couple of years that it's rapidly gained traction in, as you said, a range of different sectors. The 10 points, the CARICOM 10-point plan for reparatory justice takes on different sectors or different legacies broadly defined, like the public health crisis in the Caribbean among African descended people, like issues around access to education, like issues around mental health. And so it looks very broadly at the social consequences of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. And it analyzes, using historical research, sort of precisely where these legacies manifest. And so it's really focused on a broad base of social change around education, health, cultural institutions, the rights of Indigenous peoples in the Caribbean, on repatriation of goods, but also the right of repatriation for people.
Mm-hmm. I'm interested to know, with all the background in the history, I mean, I can imagine going through some of the university's archives and looking at some of those documents, first of all, how you would even prepare for a course like this, but in terms of the tangible outcomes, what kind of prospects exist for students of the course once they graduate and enter the corporate world?
Well, the intention behind the program was to equip students with the tools to continue this kind of research and advocacy and policy work. And it's, like you say, it's really clear that organizations, institutions, governments, the United Nations a month ago produced a report about the possibility of financial reparations. They're looking to make these changes. They understand the need to engage with these issues. But who do they turn to who are experts in analysing these issues, who have the background, who have done the reading, and, as you say, have actually engaged with research and sort of untangling these questions? Because while there's these huge kind of broad questions, there are also lots of specific case studies, lots of local communities who are engaging with these issues on a local scale. And that's where we hope to equip these students to be able to do this work.
I had been thinking about the ED&I sector having opened up so much in the last sort of 5 to 10 years. And my initial thoughts upon reading about the course was very much that it would be preparing them potentially for a position within that sector, which is growing. What are some of the subjects and the modules then that you teach within the course?
Well, right now in the first semester, the students are taking a law course based at the Mona campus in Jamaica and the University of the West Indies with Dr. Ramona Bihular. And that course is focused on the international human rights framework. It looks a bit at the different legal claims that have been made for reparations, and it gives students a grounding in negotiating the legal landscape. And so it's a course designed for engaging with the law. At the University of Glasgow, we're doing a course called Reparations Now, which is taught by myself and Dr. Stephen Mullen, amongst others. And it's focused on looking at the history of claims for reparations. And so trying to draw out kind of a broad base of case studies, comparative case studies. So where have there been successful claims for reparations? Where did claims for reparations emerge from? And we start by looking at Scotland and looking at Glasgow, and then we look at globally different claims for reparations, and then we come back to Glasgow and Scotland again to look at some anti-colonial and anti-apartheid struggles in Scotland. So look at these how these social movements emerged in this context. In the second semester, then there's courses on pedagogy. And of course on methods in the study of political violence. And so they really cover quite a broad range of topics.
I mean, it's a fascinating course, and there's clearly a lot tangible. There's so many tangible outcomes for students to take away into the workforce. Just finally, I wanted to ask about the importance and the recognition then for past injustices. You know, is a formal apology a crucial part of this conversation?
Yes, I would say yes. Formal apologies are essential to the process of making change. Formal apologies serve two different functions. One, they, on a practical sense, they bring to the table the question of reparation and restitution. They sort of highlight and make it a public conversation about what that's going to look like. But a formal apology is also important, I'm sure everyone can imagine, psychologically, emotionally, to have that acknowledgement and recognition of the harm that's been done, to have that acknowledged as being real, as being present, and as being understood on some level.
I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how the course develops. Thank you so much for joining me this morning, Dr. Christine White of Glasgow University. It's time to hear from the icon that put Jamaican music and culture on the world. listening to Sunday Morning with me, Zara Janjua, on BBC Radio Scotland, here with you until 10. Then we hand over to the Sunday Show with Fiona Stalker, and Fiona joins me now to tell us what's coming up. Good morning, Fiona.
Good morning, Zara. I know it's something that you're talking about this morning, but obviously the Israel and Gaza story, hugely complex and fast-moving story. We're going to have live updates and some analysis on that. Also back home, the SNP is meeting in Aberdeen for its autumn conference. We'll have Transport and Net Zero Minister Mary McCallum with us on the Sunday Show. And Julian Clary is going to be telling us about his illustrious career and his latest role as Herod in Jesus Christ Superstar. Someone went to see it last night, said it's the campus King Herod they've ever seen, but it sounds amazing. It's coming to Scotland next week. We'll also take you through the Sunday papers. As you can imagine, a lot of analysis of Israel and Gaza. Our guest this week, our foreign affairs writer and photographer David Pratt, Spectator's Lucy Dunn, and former Labour advisor Aisha Hazarika. So lots to come on the Sunday Show with me and Martin Geisler coming up from 10 o'clock.
Thank you so much, Fiona. Great topics and great guests by the sounds of things too. And we'll also be talking about Israel and Gaza just after 9 a.m. this morning. Let's get some music now in the charts. 20 years ago this very week, it's the Black Eyed Peas and Where Is the Love?
What's wrong with the world, mama? People living like they ain't got no mamas. I think the whole world's addicted to the drama, only attracted to things that'll bring the trauma. Overseas, yeah, we trying to stop terrorism, but we still got terrorists here living in the USA, the big CIA, the Bloods and the Crips and the KKK. But if you only have love for your own race, then you only leave space to discriminate, and to discriminate only generates hate. And when you hate, then you're bound to get irate. Yeah, madness is what you demonstrate, and that's exactly how anger works and operates. Man, you gotta have love just to set it straight. Take control of your mind and meditate. Let your soul gravitate to the love, y'all.
People killing, people dying, children hurt and you hear them crying. Can you practice what you preach and what you turn the other cheek? Father, 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 help us, send some guidance from above. These people got me questioning. Where is the love? Where is the love? Where is the love? Where is the love?
It just ain't the same, always new change. New days are strange, is the world insane? If love and peace is so strong, why are the pieces of love that don't belong? Nations dropping bombs, chemical gases filling lungs of little ones with ongoing suffering as the youth are young. So ask yourself, is the loving really gone? So I could ask myself, really what is going wrong in this world that we living in? People keep on giving in, making wrong decisions, only visions of them dividends. Not respecting each other, denying thy brother. A war's going on, but the reason's undercover. The truth is kept secret, it's swept under the rug. If you never know truth, then you never know love. What's the love, y'all? Come on, I don't know. Where's the truth, y'all? Come on, I don't know. Where's the love, y'all?
People killing, people dying, children hurt and you hear them crying. When you practice what you preach and what you turn the other cheek. Father, 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 help us, send some guidance from above. These people got me questioning. Where is the love? 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 Where is the
I feel the weight of the world on my shoulder. As I'm getting older, your people get colder. Most of us only care about money making. Selfishness got us following the wrong direction. Wrong information always shown by the media. Negative images is the main criteria. Infecting the young minds faster than bacteria. Kids wanna act like what they see in the cinemas, yeah.
Whatever happened to the values of humanity? Whatever happened to the fairness and equality? Instead of spreading love, we're spreading animosity. Lack of understanding leading us away from unity. That's the reason why sometimes I'm feeling under. That's the reason why sometimes I'm feeling down. It's no wonder why sometimes I'm feeling under. Gotta keep my faith alive till love is found. Now ask yourself,
Where is the love? Where is the love? Where is the love? Where is the love? Father, 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 help us. Send some guidance from above. These people got me questioning. Where is the love?
sing with me, y'all.
One world, one world. We only got one world, one world. That's all we got. One world, one world. And something's wrong with it. Something's wrong with it. Something's wrong with the world. Yeah, we only got one world, one world. That's all we got. One world.
Black Eyed Peas and Where's the Love? Feeling overwhelmed by the pace of modern city living, Rosie Steer found solace in the traditions she'd grown up with based on the Celtic Wheel, an ancient seasonal cycle which divides the year into 8 mini-seasons. Her new book, Slow Seasons, is a celebration of slower living, reflecting on the subtle changes in the natural world around us and how finding balance with the seasons can help us to enjoy rather than endure the colder, darker days. The book reflects on the importance of finding calm and joy in the small moments of connection with nature's cycles. Rosie, a very good morning to you. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Rosie, I think we're all very guilty of wishing the time away, particularly after all that heavy rain last week and with a cold spell looming at the moment. Do you often find yourself, or did you find yourself wishing away life?
I think the way that modern society works, we're always rushing towards the next season and celebration. It was things like Easter eggs in the shops in January and, Christmas in the shops in August, September that really felt like time was slipping away for me, and that exacerbated the feeling of always being behind in my life. And when I was struggling with my mental health, it really made me feel like life was passing me by, and I feel like a lot of people feel like that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think a lot of people will be nodding as you say Christmas things in the shop, because of course here we are in October, and I think for the last month or so we've been seeing lots of Christmas things, advent calendars.
It's begun.
I do really enjoy the desserts and the kind of fruity things, so I mean I'm always quite happy when those are back in stock, but that does force you into the future, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And there's something about remaining present with the time of year. But we do think of it as often separated into 4 seasons. So, but the Celtic Wheel divides it into 8 shorter seasons. Can you just talk us through how that works and what marks the start and end of these mini seasons?
Of course. So the Celtic Wheel of the Year is the sort of modern name for an ancient tradition where the calendar was organised around the solstices and the equinoxes and their rough midpoints. So the longest day and the shortest day, and then the equinoxes where day and night were equal. So really the light is the signal, and the cycle is one that continues. We're all downhill till the shortest day now, and then suddenly after the winter solstice, light will be picking up again. And for me, those sort of ancient rhythms and dividing the year into 8 and those smaller seasons really captures the magic of the in-between moments. It's not just about the big high days and holidays. It's celebrating in bulk on the 1st of February and that halfway to spring kind of feeling. And actually in the Celtic tradition, that was the beginning of spring. And you can see that with the first snowdrops and shoots and starting to see things changing and celebrating those smaller moments.
And so where are we now then in the Celtic Wheel?
Yeah, so we're on the sort of run up to Samhain. So Samhain would be the ancient Celtic term for Halloween, and the start of Celtic winter, that was the official beginning of winter. And I think we really feel that in Scotland, because even walking in this morning, we've got that deep, deep darkness and the night's drawing in, and it's that real celebration of that moment, the thanksgiving for the last harvest and the beginning of the winter months and slowing down.
And so this season ends with Halloween?
So Halloween will be the beginning of the next one.
Oh, it's the beginning of the next.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, so it's also punctuated by celebrations, which I think we often do. But you do talk in the book about wisdom of the Celts and sense of that sort of seasonal balance.
Yeah.
So what do you mean then with seasonal balance? How does that help our well-being?
I think it's seeing time as this cycle and nature and the seasons as this cycle, that dark times will come, but they'll also pass. So that idea, especially going into winter, that's so important, that actually we embrace the season that we're in and we don't fight those inner instincts that our modern conveniences sometimes mask, and, you know, slow down in the winter and, don't resist the desire to hibernate and go with that, with the knowledge that actually spring will come and the light will return again. And this is the moment we're in just now, and to embrace that pace.
Well, because, I mean, we've heard of slow food movement. And so this is helping us reimagine what life would be like if our calendars were divided up differently. It's not just about eating seasonally, is it? Because that's also something that we're often encouraged to do for the environment, for the quality of produce. But how and what other ways can you embrace the time of year? What sort of activities and things, for instance, would you recommend for right now, for anyone out there at the moment who's desperate for a sunshine holiday somewhere exotic?
No, I absolutely hear that. Some of the favourite activities in the book are from the autumn chapters. I think you're either an autumn-winter person or you're not, and I really love this time of year. But of course, the book's about embracing the season you're in, whatever the time of year. But some of my favourite crafts are in these chapters. So I've got the autumn wreath, which I've been making in a few workshops as part of my book tour, and had a really lovely moment this week at the launch, with people sort of saying to me, I almost didn't come, but this is really, I've prioritised me and I've really got into that flow state. And it was wonderful. There was a real buzz. We had a sort of cake break, and then we went back to the wreath making, and everyone was totally silent because they were really into that creative flow state and just totally absorbed by the making. So I always think crafting's such a big part of slow living for me, and slowing down and doing something with my hands and engaging with craft in that way, with pieces inspired by the seasons.
I definitely think there is a huge number of people, especially after COVID, who potentially got into a bit of crafting, and it's lovely to think that that would be one of the activities that you would suggest doing. But for those then that are maybe struggling at this time of year, how can you offer some positivity to them? I know the Danes do it with hygge, embracing that coziness and the comfort, but in what other ways can you really embrace this season that we're in right now?
So I think really that acceptance of the cycle and that the light will come is always something that I have in the back of my mind. But just taking the time in smaller everyday moments, whether it's changing the side of the street on your walk to work that allows you to notice different elements of nature as you pass by, taking the moment to slow down with your breakfast and lighting a candle and really making it a special moment. It doesn't have to be big things. It can be these small everyday things. And it's interesting that you touched on the pandemic. I think lots of us had that enforced slowness and actually did find the magic in those everyday moments. And now we're back to the hustle and bustle. It's about reminding ourselves and using that as a type of mindfulness.
Now, around the world, people divide, or nations divide the year differently, and there's different calendars. Scotland has a very distinctive, let's just say distinctive weather, doesn't it? And perhaps the seasons, as we would know them, the 4 seasons, perhaps aren't as dissimilar at times as you might see in other countries. So what was it that attracted you in particular to the Celtic traditions? Because there are, as I say, are so many around the world.
I think these were traditions that, looking back, I'd grown up with, but I didn't really have the names or the terminology for. And it was when I was struggling with my mental health in my sort of late 20s, where I was finding it hard to read, but I was listening to a lot of audiobooks, and I came to Lewis Grassic Gibbon's Sunset Song, which depicts the farming year so beautifully. And there, the passage of time wasn't a source of anxiety, but it was a comforting cycle and linked with these rituals. And from that, I started reading about sort of folk and fairy stories and the symbolism, and I realised there were these names that I could put to my traditions that I had growing up that I just didn't realise what they were, I suppose, the official terms, but made total sense to me for celebrating those in-between seasons, as you say, where there isn't always such a distinction here in Scotland, but to me, having 8 seasons makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It sounds like writing the book was potentially quite cathartic for you as well. How has it changed in you and impacted on your own mental health?
It's been a huge learning curve. I was working on this idea, I suppose writing about these ideas online since about 2010 and finding my community of like-minded old souls, I call them. And so I wanted to find a physical form for this community because I kept feeling like it's not just me that feels these things, you know. It must be other people that in the real world, not just the online world, that feel these things too, and providing that physical resource, I suppose. And going back to what I said about the launch, I think people feel like events like that are a permission slip to themselves to do these things and to take the time. And so I wanted the book to be a permission slip for other people to slow down and take the time to do these things that can be such a huge positive influence. And really the book was a permission slip for me as well to take my own creativity seriously. And now it's written on the front of the book, a creative guide to reconnecting with nature the Celtic way. I feel like, yeah, it's had a huge positive impact on me. It practically poured out of me writing the first draft last summer.
Well, I'm very glad to hear it. And I think it's just such a beautiful mindset to have that really forces you into the present and enjoy what we have in front of us rather than always wishing our lives away. It has been so lovely to speak to you. Rosie Steer, thank you so much. And Rosie's book, Slow Seasons, A Creative Guide to Reconnecting with Nature the Celtic Way, is published by Bloomsbury Publishing. Still to come before 9 as Big Brother returns to our screens. How far has reality TV come and what impact has it had? Right now though, Motown's finest, Stevie Wonder with For Once in My Life.
For once in my life, I have someone who needs me, someone I've needed so long. For once unafraid, I can go where life leads me. Somehow I know I'll be strong. For once I can touch what my heart used to dream of long before I knew. Oh, someone warm like you would make my dream come true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. For once in my life, I won't let sorrow hurt me. Not like it's hurt me before. For once I have something I know won't desert me. I'm not alone anymore. For once I can say, this is mine, you can't take it. Long as I know I have love, I can make it. For once in my life, I have someone who needs me. Sorrow hurt me, not like it's hurt me before. For once I have something I know won't desert me. I'm not alone anymore. For once I can say, this is mine, you can't take it. Long as I know I have love, I can make it. For once in my life, I have someone who needs me.
Stevie Wonder with For Once in My Life. Certainly a song to get you up dancing on a Sunday morning. And this is Sunday Mornings with me, Zara Janjua, here on BBC Radio Scotland. It is 8:44 a.m. And if you want to get in touch with the station, you can go to our Facebook page, Instagram, or find us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at BBC Radio Scot. Now, last week saw the return of Big Brother to our screens, a reality television classic. In the decades since its release in 2000, reality TV has become immensely popular, from talent shows to following the lives of the rich and famous. The genre has transformed entertainment, offering valuable insights into our ever-changing society. But what keeps audiences engaged? What impact has it had? And what kind of consideration is needed for ethical issues that have stemmed from the changing nature of these shows? Well, let's get into that now with Professor John Cook from Glasgow Caledonian University's Department of Media and Journalism, and 2003 Big Brother winner Cameron Stout. A very warm welcome to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. John, are you a fan of reality TV? And if so, what do you watch?
I wouldn't say I was a fan. I always approach it with a sort of mixture of fascination, curiosity, and also trepidation, because I'm very aware that that little slice of reality that's being served up to us in half an hour or 1 hour chunks, highlights programs, is obviously deeply manipulated. But whatever I think about reality TV, it's here to stay. I mean, it's really been 25 years, a quarter of a century almost, that we've had reality TV formats of all sorts of different kinds.
John, you said deeply manipulated. I think it's something that we've often heard about reality TV shows, specifically from contestants, is about the editing that is involved. And so how much is that really manipulating audiences?
Well, ultimately it depends on the ethics of the producers, but we've heard all sorts of horror stories over the years of the way in which contestants have gone on to these shows and thought they were being presented in one fashion, and then when they get out of the Big Brother house or whatever format it might be, with horror they look back and they've suddenly been painted as some kind of pantomime villain and booed in the street. So editing is the key. The way in which the highlights packages are edited, the way in which 24 hours worth of Digicam footage is edited down to 1 hour chunks for highlights programs. And audiences need to be aware that I mean, these are often, they're not scripted, obviously, shows like Big Brother, but they have like storyline producers and people who look at the feed and then try and create stories out of 24 hours of what for most of the time for the contestants will be complete and utter boredom. But it's edited together to create incident and to try and get an audience watching it just as they would enjoy a soap opera.
Cameron, you obviously have a very unique perspective here of being both a viewer and a participant. Back in 2003, 1.9 million people voted for you. That's an astonishing number of viewers to have there. Did you feel when you came out of the programme that you had been portrayed accurately, or did you feel misrepresented in any way?
Well, that's a really interesting question. I have no idea. I still have no idea because I haven't watched it. I think, and you know, I got together with some of the housemates from previous years, and they said, you know, you're going to have plans to watch your series with your housemates, and you're never going to have time to do it. I watched the highlights DVD, and again, as Professor Cook says, that's the highlights. I think the lucky thing, the fortunate thing back in the very early days of Big Brother was that there were two live feeds. There was live feed A and live feed B, and people watched in a different way back then. I think people did genuinely watch you sleeping. People watched you mowing the lawn, making cups of tea, and it would have been much harder in those days for producers to have edited into anything that hadn't really happened. The other thing, of course, is if you haven't said it, they can't show it. So you've only got your own mouth to blame if they show something that you wish they hadn't. But yeah, I think it has changed. it has had to change over the years because producers. I mean, I've spent the last 20 years defending the producers really because they've got to push it every year. They've got to make it, or they've got to maintain an appeal. And how do you do that? You change things, you push things, and they don't have an easy job, I don't think.
No, potentially two very different perspectives between you, John and Cameron. I think, as you've quite rightly mentioned, Cameron, back in the day with those live feeds, if you hadn't said it, potentially they couldn't show it. And I think, John might agree there that now there is a lot more editing that goes on, and the context perhaps in which, John, may be lost.
That's true. I mean, it is true. I mean, Cameron's made a good point about reminding us all that there used to be, for the real purists, there used to be a 24-hour feed. And yeah, I mean, I've heard stories of people actually watching those 24-hour feeds and watching the participants sleep, the contestants sleep. They found it reassuring. And in that respect, in some ways, Cameron's era is far more innocent than maybe we're heading into now. And it is the case that it does depend on the producers. I mean, I wouldn't like to be a producer of these shows because, I mean, the sheer stress of having to take 24 hours of probably mundanity and turn it into something that is exciting and watchable is probably a volume-popping experience. But nevertheless, it is the case that reality TV is evolving and changing. And the danger is for the future that it's getting meaner and meaner.
And so on that point then, what do you think, John, is being revealed about today's society? Is it just this fascination with voyeurism? But why are we so interested in the personal lives of others?
Well, it's humans are social animals, and we take our cues in everyday life from watching and observing others. So reality TV exploits that basic human instinct to learn about others' behaviour. And of course, for the audience, it's in a completely safe way because they are not exposed to any of the consequences that happen in front of them. They can just watch it, in a sense, like closet voyeurs. So in that sense, reality TV has a tremendous impact in terms of us looking at the behaviour of everyday people. But at the same time, there's been a countervailing trend where people increasingly know the genre of reality TV. They know, having seen so many of these series, how it works. And there's also a creeping cynicism coming in. So we both want what one person once called the rush of the real, the sense that, hey, this is real life we're watching, not actors. But on the other hand, we also know it's a format, it's a genre in which usually there's going to be a romance, usually there's going to be an argument, and people know how that genre plays out.
Cameron, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting this year in the kind of pre-information that was released. There were two main threads about this year's relaunch of Big Brother. One was that it was going to be full of influencers who would bring their own audience with them in a sense. But the other was that it was going to be a return to concept. And yes, the one of the housemates did have a following. She was first evicted, so her followers didn't do her much good while she was in there or on eviction night. But yeah, when it comes to the tasks, the interaction, which we are interested in, as John's just been saying, that's the human animal is a social animal. We want to see how people get on, and that's really what's been happening this year. I think it's a little bit strange that it's not been, launch night wasn't live, and that's one of the really big elements of it. That we the viewer, we think that we're right there at the time, and it hasn't been like that quite as much this year. But I'm really pleased to say that it sounds and looks as though there has been quite a return to concept. You wouldn't think it looking at the house. It looks like a cross between a cartoon and a circus and a carnival. But I think what's going on in there, you see the little pockets of people chatting and getting to know one another, and that's certainly what I enjoyed back in the day. when I was there.
In many ways, the new Big Brother series is bucking the trend because so many reality TV shows, for instance, and thinking of SAS, Who Dares Wins, and other shows like that are very much leaning into the celebrity, which it seems to be the most popular. And many people have attributed this
I don't know if it is. I don't know if it is it?
Tell me then why.
Well, no, I just think that the so-called celebrity versions of these programs, they're not half as watchable as the people that we come to know. They're in the corner of our living room, potentially 24 hours a day. And yes, from a teleproduction point of view, the celebrity versions are popular, but viewing figures, I don't think, back that up.
John, your thoughts?
Well, I would say that the celebritization of reality TV happened quite quickly from about sort of mid-noughties on. And what you see now, of course, is that reality TV becomes a vehicle for celebrities to advance their careers. So, the work dries up in other fields, drama or comedy, and they know that they can go into the reality TV realm. And of course, that also goes for ex-politicians as well, most famously at the moment, Matt Hancock, who's just in about every reality TV format there is. And so in that sense, and that's an important thing, Big Brother, if you like, is one of the purest forms of reality TV. But what we're really seeing across certainly what we might call linear TV, non-streaming television, is the way in which the reality gene, if you like, GENE, is across so many different formatted shows. Everything from SAS that you've mentioned to The Repair Shop to obviously the big Saturday night juggernauts like Strictly Come Dancing and Britain's Got Talent. They all have that reality element to it. And so in many ways, in British television terms, Big Brother was the grandmother of that, and it spawned millions and millions of different types of formats arising from that.
Cameron, what does this current taste or desire for more reality television, the fact that we watch so much of it, really, how does that reflect our desire for instant fame and validation? What do you think we get from that?
Again, that's a good question, and I was really keen to watch this series. Obviously, I'm very keen to watch it whenever it's on. There's a slight nerd inside me that wants to do that, but I just wondered, how other people were going to watch it. I think this year there's potentially two quite distinct audiences. There's the audience that can't watch anything for more than 12 seconds at a time, because that's what we've become acquainted with, with the Reels and TikTok and one or two of these things, platforms that just give you a quick blast. And then there's the kind of more traditional audience, or the more original audience of the concept that are there looking at the interaction and that kind of thing. And I think for housemates, it's going to be a different experience. Either their life is going to have passed by in 12 seconds and it really doesn't matter because nobody remembers. But then there's also going to be one or two blocks of 12 seconds that they're never going to be allowed to forget. And, that's one of the risks that you take by going on to
it is going to be there
with this concept.
Forever. Yeah. That is the thing. And actually, reality TV, I'm sure, is a guilty pleasure for everyone. I could talk to you both about this all day long. Thank you so much, John Cook and Cameron Stout. Still to come before 10 a.m. against the backdrop of the escalating situation in Israel and Gaza, we discuss the possibilities for peace and the need for more reconciliatory language. And as research reveals a decrease in language skills among nursery-aged children, we'll be looking at the impact this can have on social development and well-being. But right now, let's continue with our brilliant soundtrack to celebrate Black History Month, and taking us up to the news, here's Mary.
It shall be done. It shall be done. It shall be done.
Have you been waiting on an answer from God? In the book of Matthew, the
Sunday Morning with me, Zara Janjua. Coming up, I'll be speaking to Gemma Hunt, who many of you will know if you have little ones running around from the CBeebies show Swashbuckle. She'll be telling me about her new children's book, which offers a diverse, modern reimagining of Bible stories. New research shows the rise in language problems amongst young children, but what long-term impact could that have on children's well-being and ability to interact and connect? We'll be hearing about that before 10, and in a few minutes we'll turn our attention to the dire situation that's been unfolding in Israel and Gaza. We'll be exploring the role faith communities can play in working towards a more peaceful approach. First, let's continue our Black History Month soundtrack. I hope
I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know change has gotta come now. Ooh, yes it is now. Oh my, oh my, oh my. It's been too hard living, oh my, and I'm afraid to die. I don't know what's up there beyond the clouds. It's been a long time coming. I know, change has gotta come. Oh, yes, it is. There's a time I will go to my brother. Oh, I've asked my brother, will you help me please? Oh, he turned me down, and then I asked my dear mother. Oh, I said, mother, I'm down on my knees. Somehow I thought I was still able to try to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change is gonna come. Oh, yes it is. Just like I said, I went to my little bitty brother. Turn me down, and then I go to my little mother, my dear mother. Oh, now I said, mother, I'm down on my knees. But there was a time that I thought, Lord, this could last very long. Oh, man. Somehow I thought I was still able try to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know the change gotta come. Ooh, it's been so long, a little too long, but a change has gotta come. So tired of suffering, standing by myself and standing up alone, but a change has gotta come. You know, and I know, you know that, I know, and you know, honey, that a change is gonna come.
and a change is going to come. Now, we've all watched in horror this week at the unfolding atrocities in Israel and Gaza. As the conflict continues to escalate, the responses across the globe have highlighted the entrenched views held on both sides. In such extreme times of crisis, peace seems far away. But how do we even begin to get back to a more peaceful approach? And while things look so bleak, how do we retain hope? Joining me is Dr. Ed Kessler, the founder-president of UK-based interfaith charity The Wolf Institute, and Jane Kinninmont, the Policy and Impact Director of the European Leadership Network. Good morning to you both. Thank you for joining us today. Jane, the recent attacks we've seen are some of the most deadly in a very long and hugely complicated, bloody conflict. We're setting you a very challenging task to help distill this very long, complex history. And of course, there's lots of nuances and sensitivities involved. Inevitably, you know, when we're looking at the history, there may be moments that are omitted from that of course will cause offence. But if you wouldn't mind, can you help give us a brief overview of how we arrived at this situation?
Sure. I mean, the different understandings of history are also kind of part of the conflict, but suffice it to say, you know, this is a conflict where there are two peoples that both have connections to this same small but important piece of land. They have family connections, ethnic connections, religious connections. And since the end of the British Empire there, in the middle of the 20th century, there has never been yet a successful implementation of a formula for them both to share that land. So when the British Empire was wound up there, the UN determined that there should be two states for two peoples. At that time, the Palestinians and the Arab states rejected that. There's been a long history of contention over exactly that issue of two states, but it's never been delivered. At times the Arabs didn't want it, at times the Israelis didn't want it. And for the last 30 years, the international community, since the Oslo Accords between the Israelis and Palestinians, the international community has said the two-state solution is the only way forward. But the Israelis and Palestinians themselves have lost hope in it, often because each side thinks that the other side is not willing to live with it. So the peace paradigm that we've had for so long seems to have collapsed in credibility for the people on the ground. And the international community has very little else to offer. And unfortunately, it's been leaving space for people on both sides who say, actually, there's no way to live together and it's them or us.
Jane, thank you so much. I realise that is a very difficult task that we set you, and I appreciate you giving us that overview. Ed, can I come to you? There's obviously no hiding from the role that religion plays in this conflict. What then is the significance of the name Operation Al-Aqsa Flood?
Yeah, the Al-Aqsa Flood, exactly. It was the term used by Hamas to apply to their attacks in Israel and the atrocities that took place. And they chose Al-Aqsa as an Arabic word, which means the furthest mosque. And it refers to that beautiful, we've all seen pictures of it, and some of us have been there, the Golden Mosque in Jerusalem. It's the third most holy place in Islam because, according to the Quran, Muhammad had a night journey there. Originally Muslims prayed towards Jerusalem, but it also has political significance because it's the only place in Jerusalem that's actually the sovereignty is Jordanian. They employ Palestinians, and Israeli security are outside. So it's also got this political significance. And from a Jewish perspective, and also for Christians, it was the site of the two temples, the biblical temples where Jesus prayed, traditionally where Abraham tried to sacrifice Isaac. It's where the Western Wall is today. So it's the most holy place for Jews. It's one of the most holy places for Muslims. And it was chosen, I think, to attempt to religionize the conflict. And I agree with Jane in terms of this issue of coexistence and peoples working out or not working out a way of living together. But it's an attempt to make this a religious conflict, whereas religion's part of it, of course, but it's fundamentally a conflict about land and about working out a way to live together.
Jane, it seems like a totally intractable situation. And in your opinion, what needs to happen next in terms of this conflict resolution?
Unfortunately, what we see playing out before us in real time is making future conflict resolution much, much more difficult. So, there is a case for the future to try to reduce the intensity of what is happening now. And there are many calls, including from the humanitarian world, to pause the fighting, to enable a humanitarian pause, but also actually to take stock and think about what the long term is, because this is taking place in a context of real shock, where decisions are playing out in an atmosphere of fear and horror that is not actually based on a long-term strategy. I think another key element is engaging with the regional leaders in the Middle East, because one big positive difference between now and the 20th century Arab-Israeli conflicts is that most of the regional leaders do not want to see this conflict, and they certainly do not want it to spread. They don't want their region to be defined by war. They want to focus on creating jobs, developing, working out how their economies are going to look like after oil. So there are quite a number of leaders in the region who do talk to all sides in this. Israel, Hamas, the Palestinian Authority, they can play an important role. Most immediately, that should probably be around hostage diplomacy. And securing the safe treatment and the release of the hostages from Israel that Hamas is holding, coupled with humanitarian relief for the Palestinian population. But there also needs to be a longer-term discussion. What can this future look like in a way where there can be hope?
Ed, what's the role then of faith communities in these difficult times? Jane's obviously outlined the role there of certain countries and leaders, but in terms of faith communities, what role can they play?
Well, I think there's a role here, because on the ground, the situation is desperate and there's so much anger and grief, and it's very hard to have any conversations in that context. It's just got to calm down. But here, faith communities do have a role, because if we can't have conversations here, then what hope is there over there? So one of the things is to facilitate encounters between Jews, Christians and Muslims, to have conversations about Israel, Palestine. Sometimes there are just advocates in this controversy, and it's no good. Why can't you be both pro-Palestinian and pro-Israeli? It seems that you're either one or the other. And I think one of the things that faith communities should be able to do, at least we claim to do, is to be able to listen. To be able to listen to different opinions, not just to talk and say what my opinion is, but I want to know what your opinion is. And I think there's something about creating a safe space here that communities can provide each other, maybe in sort of neutral venues like churches, if Muslims and Jews need to meet. I mean, I'm involved in a few quiet conversations to make sure relations on the ground aren't damaged by what's happening over there. And I'd just add one other thing, is that all people of faith have hope. And if there's hopelessness and a collapse in trust on the ground over there, which there is, then we need to bring that hope to that region. And begin to envision what it might look like. I think that's our contribution. It's not just to shout for one side or another, but to listen and to be supportive of both.
It seems only a few months ago we were speaking to Reverend Muriel Pearson on the programme from Cindiana of Galilee, a Scottish grove that was a non-profit led by Arab and Jewish women. They produced honey, olive oil, almonds, carob syrup. The conflict has obviously been felt throughout the world. How do the events in the last few days then threaten to undo the positive relationships that have been built between these interfaith groups in the international diaspora, Ed?
Well, I think, first of all, the individual communities feel under pressure. I mean, Jews are witnessing increasing anti-Semitism, extra security around Jewish schools and synagogues. So there's a nervousness there. There's even a fear amongst some. So that needs to be addressed. Amongst Muslims, there's a real frustration that the Palestinian cause is not being taken seriously enough. The Palestinian suffering is not being acknowledged enough. And the severity of the Israeli response is only going to increase that. And that has an impact on relations on the ground. And I think we just need to be honest about that. And we're not always so good at being honest about ourselves. We're very good at being honest about somebody else's issues. So we need a bit more of that self-honesty. We need to be helped in that. But there's a worry there I have, but it's not fundamental because such a lot of work's being done around in Scotland, around the whole of the UK in terms of building relations on the ground. Mustn't be complacent, but we've got to work at it now.
Jane, Ed was mentioning there the role of faith groups and obviously remaining impartial during these times. But when we are obviously engaging in conversations on social media and online, or when we hear politicians speak, or indeed even read articles in the media, how important is the language that we use?
Well, language is absolutely very important and very sensitive on both sides of this conflict. But I think even more than saying sort of what are the right words to use or not, like the controversy over the word terrorism, it is about practicing empathy and understanding. You know, a lot of the discussion on social media has been about what should be condemned, which, of course, there's a lot that should be condemned. But can we think also about sharing in grief, about promoting understanding, and about remembering that there's a really big difference between explaining and understanding and seeking to justify? You know, those of us that are in the privileged world of living in a peaceful place, we shouldn't be jumping in saying, yes, this side is right and how dare you say they're not. You know, we should be trying to promote understanding, but an understanding in order to change, you know, in order to explain things and see how things might be different in the future, not to compound the most negative emotions.
And where we're seeing this continued trauma of throughout generations, this generational trauma that is continuing in both sides, where then is there hope to overcome this, Ed?
Well, I was just about to come on to this question of hope and build on what Jane said, because that's the vital ingredient that Muslims, Jews, Christians can bring from thousands of miles away. And you look at some of the wonderful things going on, and we need to shout about those from the rooftops. I was reading today that in Haifa and Jaffa, which are mixed cities, Arab-Jewish cities, there are joint patrols trying to prevent violence on both sides. So even in the shadow of war, there are these little examples of, if you like, Arab-Jewish solidarity. A few years ago, the bereaved parents of Israelis and Palestinians came to my institute in Cambridge called the Wolf Institute. And, you know, there was a Palestinian woman who lost her sister. There was an Israeli mother who lost her son in the conflict. And one of the things they said, and I'll never forget it, is they said, if you don't want to be part of the solution, don't be part of the problem. And it was so powerful. It was so powerful. And I think there are things like that we need to build on when there are these little outbursts of peace, these moments of collaboration, of partnership on the ground there. We need to shout them from the rooftops.
Thanks, Ed. And Jane, can you leave us with a message of hope?
People do know on both sides of the conflict that this is not sustainable, but they don't see a way out. So there is a need, you know, for wise people from around the world to strategize for peace, to not just leave room for the most extreme voices on both sides of the conflict, and to think when there's a moment that is as dire as now, this needs to be a time to decide that it cannot continue to be this way.
Many thanks to Jane Kinnaman and Ed Kessler, and our thoughts, of course, are with all of those affected in the Middle East. In a few minutes, I'll be speaking to presenter and writer Gemma Hunt about her new children's book, which gives us a mixed-race reimagining of the story of Jesus. Right now, a beautiful song from...
Now I'm ready to pay you. You ready for this? grandmama too. I can't stand you, one of you. I ain't lying, I'm telling the truth. I feel the same about your grandmama too. I got the ex-wife blues. 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 For 7 years I went through hell. I'm married to Jezebel. Girl, you took me through so much pain. So much pain, I almost went insane. Even the first day we were married, you act a fool in front of my boys. I should've listened to my own boy's man when he said you got hell on your hand. I got the ex-wife blues. 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 Now that we've gone our separate ways, you still throwing that old in my face. Still trying to control my world. Even won't let me see my little girl. I'm gonna wait till she get a little older. I'm gonna tell her how her mother stole her. I know you think I'm gonna give up and quit, commit suicide like your last husband did. I ain't gonna let you get me down, because my name is Sharon Brown. So long, farewell. It's just another old conniving. I got the ex-wife blues. I got the ex-wife blues. I got the ex-wife blues. I got the ex-wife blues.
My next guest, Gem Hunt, is best known as the charismatic presenter of the beloved and BAFTA-winning CBeebies pirate game show Swashbuckle. She is also a talented author, and her latest book, See, Let's Be Me, reimagines age-old tales from the Bible to be more diverse and relatable to today's children. The book also aims to help young minds navigate complex emotions, inspiring them to persevere during challenging times and find tranquility amidst life's chaos. And she joins me now. Good morning to you, Gemma.
Good morning.
Congratulations on your recent book. Can you tell us a little bit about it? What was the inspiration?
Well, this is part of a series called See, Let's Be, and it's all about imitative behaviour. Because, like you said, I have worked on CBeebies for many years, and we're always taught about the importance of imitative behaviour on screen and how our audience want to copy us. And as a Christian, I like to copy Jesus, so he's my role model. And as a mum, I was unable to find lots of books that showed diverse mixed race families that were Christian stories that didn't show Jesus as being a white man. So I wanted to create something where all of us could relate to different characters in books that had Christ-like characteristics, so then to imitate those people. And so the See, Let's Be series started last year with a book called A Good Friend, all about helping children and young people to be a better friend, based on 5 short Bible stories. And then this book, Me, is all about us being our best version of me by helping ourselves to deal with our big feelings and our emotions. And again, based on 5 short Bible stories that are stories that you'd recognize if you knew them, but if you didn't realize that they were Bible stories, you would just be able to appreciate the good morals and the love behind the stories as I've rewritten them and set them in a modern day family. So I wanted to use my mixed race family in the book. So I play the mum in the stories. My husband, who is white, is the dad. And our mixed race daughter, who is actually white passing, is also the daughter in the book. My Jamaican mum is in it and my white dad is in it. And for the sake of the book, we've also adopted a mixed race boy into our family too, who is actually a family friend of ours. So hopefully people can see themselves represented in this family setting. And each story is told from the perspective of either my daughter or my adopted son. And they're looking at big things that happen in their lives as a young child and how then to deal with these situations. And they look to scenarios that happen around them that happen to be Bible stories, but written into their lives. And so I'm hoping that regardless of what your faith background or your belief is, you will find something good out of these stories that are essentially told by Jesus, but just retold by me in a modern day family setting.
Gemma, there will be so many parents out there that understand the mimicking and replicating point you made earlier. I think that, in terms of listening to or repeating songs or expressions from within shows, and actually to have the characteristics and the behaviours of Jesus would be so appealing to so many people. The family structure also is something that is incredibly interesting because, also I am from a mixed background, and certainly when I was growing up, I didn't lift a book and see our family structure portrayed at all. And I'm interested to know what impact that had on your daughter.
She absolutely loves it. She's so proud to see herself and her family unit represented because to her, that's her normal. Whereas to other people, they were surprised by that. Even somebody from my publishers said, I hadn't thought about a Black Jamaican grandmother having a white passing granddaughter. That just hadn't ever gone into her mind as a white woman. And so it's great for people to see, yes, this is what families look like. And to many of us, this is our normal. And raising our children in society, we want them to feel known, to feel seen, and to be validated for who they are. So therefore, it's great for us to show them in family settings that look like theirs.
And all the stories in the book are adaptations from the Bible. So was it difficult adapting these well-known stories to fit a more modern perspective?
Yeah, it was quite fun, actually. I think we found the theme of the book and then we just thought, well, what kind of Bible stories might fit the theme of trying to deal with feelings, big feelings and emotions. And so we were thinking of things like perseverance and feeling cross or feeling jealous. And there may be some Bible stories that come to your mind, but for me, something like the feeling jealous story was the story of the prodigal son, where many of us will know the story. And so I thought, well, let's think about this family dynamic between 2 sons and the older son who's jealous of the younger son who goes off and splurges his inheritance, then comes back empty-handed and the father still welcomes him home. I'm thinking, okay, well, how would that relate to today's society and today's children? So I've set that particular story in a sort of a winter market where the granddad has got a hot chocolate stall and he asks his two grandchildren to come and help, and he gives them both pocket money to help, but the younger granddaughter goes off around the fair and spends her money on burgers and candy floss and going on the merry-go-round, and the older grandson's left behind saying, hang on a minute, I'm here doing all this work and I'm not getting anything. She's getting all the joy of going around the market and I'm working really hard here. And then she comes back without any money and gets a free hot chocolate. What's going on? And the granddad says, look, you are here and you can have as many hot chocolates as you like. But I'm glad that your sister's back safely, but you've always been here. All I have is yours. And it's the same story from the Bible, but set in a way that hopefully children can then see, okay, I don't need to be jealous of my siblings. We can all share what our parents have and what they're giving us.
A very, very important topic. I have a nephew who is 5 years old, and I said to him last week something about being jealous of his big plate of blueberries, and he turned to me very sternly and said, it's not good to be jealous. You're not allowed to be jealous of people. And I thought, I really need to watch my language when I'm with him. And
but
be
it's
careful.
great that kids are being educated now on how to have this vocabulary, and I think that we're so much more conscious of that now in our parenting, to give our children the tools to be able to explain how they're feeling, because they're not just happy or sad. They're frustrated, or they're angry, or they're feeling hurt, or they're feeling rejected, or they're feeling joyful, or they're feeling excited. It's giving them the other words to name what they're feeling and not just one or the other.
And so it's helping also with their literacy in many ways, or their emotional literacy. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think it gives children the opportunity to explore who they are and to feel validated in having these feelings. Because I remember as a child just being told, oh, just stop it, stop being silly, just put yourself together, stop crying. But actually, no, I think being validated in how we feel is so important to then process those feelings and those emotions. And then hopefully that won't then scar us to be emotionally inarticulate as adults. And I've had relationships in the past where guys haven't been able to talk about their feelings at all. And I found that very frustrating. And maybe perhaps if they'd had a book like this as a child, it might have been able to help them to be more articulate than as an adult.
With your role on CBeebies, you mentioned before that, you know, you have a lot of experience from that you have brought to this project and to this book. But in terms of storytelling, because you're obviously a fantastic storyteller too, you're using it as a vehicle to learning, but this is also about providing that sense of belonging for children.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that children need to feel like they matter, that they're valid, that they're important, that they're seen, that they're heard, that their voices matter. And so having a book like this where they can, again, help themselves to find that vocabulary to express who they are in a way that hopefully their peers and adults will respect, will just give them the boldness and the courage going forward then to feel more fulfilled as a human.
And I noticed that there's a diverse image of Jesus in the book to make, I guess, mixed race children and children of colour feel a bit more included in the conversation of religion.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not about Jesus being the sort of systemically portrayed white man that so many of us have grown up seeing images of. It's about seeing the characteristics of Jesus in a white granddad, or in a mixed race mom, or in a black football coach, or just whoever's in the story that is showing these Christ-like characteristics and not necessarily look like Jesus that we might think he looks like from the old Christian Bible stories that we've grown up with. And I'm hoping that this will be something that children will find in their stockings this Christmas, and that families can sit together and read together and learn from together and find a new vocabulary that a family can share and find that mutual respect and adoration for one another in.
Well, Gemma, thank you so much. I will certainly be saying envious rather than jealous to my nephew from now on. That was a lesson I learned with him last week.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining me, Gemma Hunt. And Gemma's book, See, Let's Be Me, is published by SPCK and is out now. Such a lovely reggae vibe there from Bob and Marcia with Young, Gifted and Black. You're listening to Sunday Morning with me, Zara Janjua, on BBC Radio Scotland. If you've missed anything on the show, you can catch up using the BBC Sounds app. And remember, you can get in touch with us at the station on Facebook, Instagram and on X, formerly known as Twitter, at BBC Radio Scot.
Wake up to Good Morning Scotland.
Everything you need to know to start the day.
Listen to Lunchtime Live from noon. Your lunchtime destination for the latest news. Head home with Drive Time. Weekdays from 4.
Rounding up the day's top stories.
Listen on BBC Sounds or ask your smart speaker to play BBC Radio Scotland.
Memphis Wrestling is hotter than ever. Join us live. Saturday, October 21st, AEW Collision is live at FedEx Forum. Get your tickets at AEWTix.com. Sunday, October 29th, AEW superstars Prince Nana and Brandon Cutler are coming to Memphis Wrestling. Sunday, November 19th, Impact Wrestling stars Josh Alexander and Eric Young are coming to Memphis Wrestling. Then Sunday, December 10th is our annual Grind City Rumble. Reserve your seat right now. All tickets are on sale now. Get yours right now at memphiswrestling.tv.
In a few minutes, I'll be finding out about the reported rise in the number of children with speech problems and what this means. First, Joy Oladukan, whose music is influenced by her church upbringing and her identity as a queer woman of College of Speech and Language Therapists has revealed that 9 out of 10 nursery teachers have reported a rise in the number of children with speech and communication difficulties. With us today to discuss the short and long-term impact this can have are Scotland's head of the Royal College of Speech and Language Therapists, Glenn Carter, and Ariana Patterson from the Speech and Language Communications Company, a charity set up to support the needs of children and young people who experience these problems. Thank you both for joining us this morning. Welcome to the programme.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Now, Glenn, what do we mean then by speech problems? What sort of falls under this category?
So the situation in Scotland is serious in that we've got 275,000 children and young people with communication needs. And by that we mean there's a broad spectrum, right from children with complex needs who require alternative forms of communication or voice output devices, children with specific speech and language difficulties like speech sound intelligibility issues or developmental language disorder where they struggle to understand spoken language or express it. And also children with delayed spoken language skills. We know that 50% of kids come to schools from area of deprivation or come to school with inadequate spoken language skills for learning. So it is a serious situation in Scotland, and there's a very wide range of speech and language difficulties.
And it's often cited that COVID may have accelerated this as an issue, or that it had some sort of impact on children's speech development. Why is that?
So COVID certainly shone a light on these issues. The issues were always there beforehand, but it exacerbated it. So if you think of speech language communication difficulties, there's two key areas to consider. There's genetics in terms of causes, and there's environmental. Now, 10% of kids are born with some specific speech and language difficulties. And then there's environmental issues, which COVID shone a light on. And so by that we mean it would appear that during COVID, children had access to fewer interactions, both in ability to express and hear language. Their world became very small. And they also had experienced significant stress in the family. So we think that the stress in the family from mental health and poverty, the cost of living crisis, does impact children if you have prolonged periods of stress, and that can reduce the number of positive type of interactions in the family, like talking, reading, singing, and playing with kids, which can impact. And the research is just emerging, but that seems to be the trend.
There's a lot of people, I'm sure, listening at home and perhaps reflecting on their own time during COVID and what they were going through themselves. Many women, I guess, were working the double shift, and people were having to do everything at home. And for some people, this might be something they saw in their children, was that the children were also really struggling. But COVID restrictions ended, quite some time ago now, but we're still seeing this rise with children in speech problems. So what other factors might be at play here then?
So again, the research is emerging. Public Health Scotland noticed that health visitors' concerns had peaked during COVID around the 27 to 30 month period, where that main concern was around communication. That data doesn't seem to be coming down. So we do wonder whether, just because of the situation we find ourselves in society, where there is prolonged and persevering stress in the family, that is continuing to impact interactions. And so the research isn't definitive yet, but there seems to be the trend with that the level of need is continuing to stay at the level that we've seen during COVID.
Ariana, can we bring you in here? What support have you been giving then, and have you seen an increase in the number of families and children's coming to you with speech problems?
Yeah, I mean, our organisation has been set up as a parent-led charity primarily, which is really addressing all of the problems that have been, that Glenn has already highlighted there, from a perspective of, how do you support a family in a way that's kind of a holistic, I suppose. So we've had these problems, before the pandemic, but certainly exacerbated by the fact that people have been isolated. And I think a lot of the issues are around services not returning to normal either, and people not knowing really what to do. So, there's a whole kind of gamut of things that people have got to run through before they can kind of focus, I think, on children's speech and language. The priorities are often elsewhere, because of poverty and the things that impact upon them. So our organisation basically has been in existence a long time. The primary focus, I suppose, is to provide advice and guidance for parents from a perspective of a grassroots organisation that works in the community for the community. So we're very much involved within the third sector interface and partnerships that are in place within local authorities. So we're in there working with families, responding to families both on a helpline and within, mother-toddler groups and so on and so forth. So the support that we're probably giving is a lot of emotional support to parents. We've got to find out what's actually going on for them in their life, as well as, trying to focus on, supporting with strategy, advice, guidance, signposting, etc., for the parents, to actually go and do something to help. So on top of that, I suppose most of the other work that we do is with children themselves. So it's to build social communication skills, give them opportunities to socialise too. Sorry, I might have gone off.
No, not at all. I'm really interested to know about the emotional impact then, because you mentioned the emotional support you're given, and it must be very upsetting for children and their parents when they have these issues. So, what then is the psychological impact on families who are going through this?
Well, it's the correlation, I suppose, with poor mental health. Mental health has been affected in general population due to COVID. When parents, I think, certainly when the children are young, when it's an early years issue that, their speech and language is not at developmental milestones and things like that, people are looking potentially for an appointment with speech and language therapists. There are huge delays in getting an appointment. People are perhaps referred, through health visitor assessments, 27, 30-month review, etc. But parents are then having to wait for ages and they don't know really what to do. So they may have been given some strategies to support, kind of language development in the interim, but they really struggle with that. So they're worried about their children. They see them pitching up at nursery, and then nursery staff may be pointing out that, there's some issue there about, their social communication skills, of their language. So parents then are looking for support elsewhere, and that's where they come around to, an organisation like ours. But one of the primary issues that we see is the stress around it. So on top of all the other stresses that people have, they are stressed out because they're not wanting these key developmental stages to be impacted by a wait of a couple of years to get some, clinical input, say. Mm-hmm. So that has a really massive effect on people's mental health, and that obviously continues for parents when, perhaps if a child has considerable difficulties, that it's going to be lifelong. So one of the things that we do is very much focus on support for that emotional journey for people.
Mm-hmm. Let's bring Glenn in here. Glenn, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Ariana makes some great points, and there's no doubt we need more speech and language therapists in Scotland to manage the demand. I just wanted to talk about the psychological impact. There was a young man I worked with, one of the last people I worked with as a clinician. He was 15, he had a developmental language disorder, and his needs were missed through nursery and primary school. And he asked me a question that I will never forget. He said, "Glenn, how do we make sure this happens to no one else?" And that question was packed full of meaning, because what he meant by that was these difficulties being missed has impacted my learning, my mental health, my ability to make friends, and my hope for the future. And I have been struck by that. I plan to go back to him with an answer to that question. But because we managed to have input in school, we did work with we did training development with the staff, we adapted the curriculum, he had an amazing support teacher, we did a bit of individual therapy, and that young man was transformed from a man with no hope to a young man with full of hope, and he managed to pass loads of exams. And I got the best email from his mum to say, "Glenn, thank you for giving us our son back. He is totally transformed." So there is hope for these young people if we get the right support in place, but it's a very significant situation. But the problem is, if we don't get them, then we know that the outcomes can be really poor. We know that 88% of young men who are unemployed have communication needs. We know that 60% of young people in contact with the law have communication needs. So the outcomes can be transformed, but we need the resource to be able to do it.
And Glenn, thank you for sharing your case study, and what that shows is the impact on, you know, children and an adult. This case study of yours, this gentleman, he carried it with him his entire life. How does that affect your sense of self or your sense of place in the world?
Well, so that's a deep question. Communication is core to who we are as humans. It's a defining feature of our humanity, both in our culture and our identity. And the thing about humans is they long for connection, and we long to be seen and we long to be heard. And when that connection is broken, then we become distressed. And that's the reality of it. And actually, communication is the core feature of our connection. And interestingly, parents of all the areas of child development, when they see communication going wrong, that's the main area that they worry about. And they worry about it because they instinctively know how important it is for their child to build relationships and to express their needs and wants, and to learn, and they know that it's important for their future. So this is why it's such an important part of who we are as humans.
And Ariana, what then are some of the frustrations that you've seen in patients or children, and even their parents not being able to, you know, understand or communicate, as Glenn has explained there?
Yeah, I mean, Glenn speaks very eloquently, and you know, obviously, I would share, you know, exactly what he's saying. But I mean, I think at the heart of it, it is about relationships, and I think the impact on parents that watch children who struggle to join in, that are excluded or isolated or not able to learn or don't do well at school or are bullied, is a massive drain on you know, parents and caregivers, but also I think the effects on children themselves are often overlooked. You know, children sometimes struggle being in mainstream settings, and it's as simple as that. So it's so important really to focus on that foundation element of getting children to be as best as they can be in terms of their ability to communicate, because it's such a stepping stone to everything else. So whether this driver to get it right for every child, we really need to think about getting it right for speech and language kids. And I think that would be, you know, more or less what I would say. And that would, I think, you know, contribute a lot to addressing some of the problems that are faced in education, that are faced through behaviour problems in schools, the isolation of children outside school. All of that, I think, rests on their ability to be able to navigate their way through the world successfully. And like, you know, the story that Glenn has shared, if it's put in there and if there's enough work and enough investment there, things can be turned around. But for so many children, it's just not happening for them. So, of course, these parents are looking at their children under stress and find that they're under stress themselves. And
Ariana, thank you.
And it's sustained, you know.
I think there'll be a lot of parents having listened to this today and connecting with some of those. Thank you so much for joining me today, Ariana Patterson and Glenn Carter. You can find out more on the Speech Language Communications Company website. A big thanks to all my guests this morning, and Connie McLaughlin will be here with you next Sunday. Stay tuned. The Sunday show is up next with Fiona Stalker. Then it's an afternoon of sport, and music gets underway from 5 p.m. with Gary Innes. I'll leave you with a final track in our morning of music celebrating Black History Month. It's Mary J. Blige and George Michael's take on Stevie Wonder's classic As. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye bye.